Greetings, vinyl community, and welcome to VC Friday, where I will be telling the naked truth about some classic rock, some classical music, and some avant-garde weirdness, and be starting off with the 50th anniversary reissue of the Grateful Dead's Blues for Allah. This is one of my favorite Grateful Dead albums. It's certainly one of my very favorite Grateful Dead album covers. Love this artwork. On the back, we see the six-piece incarnation of the Grateful Dead. Although Mickey Hart is on this album, he apparently hadn't officially returned to the band yet, so he's not included in the illustration. This is the limited edition version that you get from the Grateful Dead store on Midnight Fire vinyl, otherwise known as red vinyl with some black splatter to it. There's another colored vinyl edition that you can get at regular outlets. I think that one's green vinyl. But this is a limited edition of 3,000. And it tells you so on the hype sticker there. And there's a second hype sticker to indicate that this is part of the 50th anniversary reissue series. And this is a Grateful Dead album that really dives into areas that they didn't usually dive into. It's got some fusion-influenced material. It's got some strange, low-key, ambient-like material. Side 1 begins with some material that's very familiar from Dead live shows. Help on the Way, which goes into the instrumental Slipknot, very quirky guitar instrumental. It's got that fusion influence that I mentioned. And that goes into Franklin's Tower. And that sequence of 3 songs was a very familiar concert staple. That's followed by King Solomon's Marbles, Stronger Than Dirt, or Milkin' the Turkey. It's all sort of a sequence of percussion-led instrumental music. And then the side ends with another concert staple, The Music Never Stopped, one of the Grateful Dead's most popular songs, a very Bob Weir song. Side 2 is where things begin to get more experimental. The side opens accessibly enough with Crazy Fingers, which is a soft, loping reggae beat with a melodic Jerry Garcia vocal part. That's followed by Sage and Spirit, an unusually jazzy instrumental featuring flute as the lead instrument. The flute is played by Stephen Schuster, guest player on the album. And from there on, the album goes into the sort of Blues for Allah suite. Very ambient, very slow. The title track, Blues for Allah, followed by Sandcastles and Glass Camels, followed by the album closer, Unusual Occurrences in the Desert. You get, besides the slow vocal parts, the sounds of crickets, provided by Mickey Hart. So he's the insect wrangler for this album. But it's definitely the Dead at their spaciest, but not spacey in the psychedelic way. It's a more droney and ambient space that they're exploring. Extremely cool album from the Grateful Dead, 1975, Blues for Allah. There's also the reproduction of the lyric insert with the title track translated into Hebrew, Arabic, and Persian. There's a monthly concert series in San Francisco that I regularly attend called God Waffle Noise Pancakes, and it is a concert of noise music. They usually have 5 performers at each show that'll play for like 20 minutes or so each. And they play noise music, mostly electronic, a lot of folks with modular systems, or just assorted noisemakers played through various distortion boxes and delays and samplers, some conventional instruments, but mostly electronic, and mostly solo performers, but they tend to perform under sort of pseudo band names. So a lot of them have these kind of weird, oddball names, and one of those is a fellow I saw this past weekend who performed under the name Lime Eyelid. And he had some copies of an album with him, and he gave me one. And this is Week of Wonders by Lime Eyelid from 2018. No idea what the cover involves. That's not him on the cover. Very sparse. There's no information, and all the songs have just numbers for titles except one, which is I Saw Waves. Ditto, no composer information or anything, just I mentioned that it was mastered by Mel Detmer and copyright 2018 by Lime Eyelid. Well, Lime Eyelid is apparently a fellow named Josh Schultz who made this album, and it's very not real abrasive noise, like a lot of the stuff you hear at God Waffle Noise Pancakes, where incidentally they do also serve pancakes along with the noise music, and show grotesque imagery projected on a rear screen. This is pretty low-key, pretty quiet for the most part. There are beats. I'm reminded in parts of maybe early Residents, only slowed way down, and almost all instrumental. I Saw Waves is a vocal piece, but very cool to receive this from Mr. Lime Eyelid. Up a couple of LPs of the music of Arnold Schoenberg, and the first is this album on the Angel label of Pelléa et Mélisande. This is an early composition by Schoenberg, completed in 1903, and he's one of a number of composers who did work inspired by the Maurice Maeterlinck play Pelléa et Mélisande. This is a symphonic poem. The best-known musical adaptation is the Debussy opera of the same title. There's also incidental music for the play written by Gabriel Fauré, and Jan Sibelius also did incidental music for the play. But this is a full-fledged symphonic poem, and being an early piece by Schoenberg, it's got that late romantic influence hanging on. It's definitely still showing the influence of Wagner and Mahler and Brahms, but it's very powerful. Big orchestra, lots of woodwinds, lots of percussion, and just a beautifully, powerfully scored piece. The story it's based on, the play Pelléa et Mélisande, is a very grim story. It's about Golo, the character who is the king's grandson, who finds Melisande weeping in the woods by a stream. And she's traumatized and amnesiac and can't explain why she's there. And I guess Golo finds this hot because he takes her home and marries her. Unfortunately, Golo's brother is Pelea, and Pelea and Melisande fall in love and start running around behind Golo's back. And Golo finds out about this and stabs Pelea to death and wounds Melisande, who later dies in childbirth. The end. So not a real pleasant story, but it definitely produced some gripping listening, some amazing orchestration on this. It's said that the use of the glissando on the trombones, which you hear towards the end of side 1 on here, done very prominently, is the first time in a classical score that effect was used, which I find hard to believe, because the whole point of a trombone is to go brah or brah. I mean, isn't that what trombones are for? And this is a 1968 release of the score on the Angel label, and it is performed by the New Philharmonia Orchestra, conducted by Sir John Barbaroli. And then another of my very favorite Schoenberg pieces, and one I've spoken about before. This is Pierrot Lunaire, composed in 1912, and performed here by Arthur Weisberg and the Contemporary Chamber Ensemble with Gian de Gaetani as the singer. This is the polar opposite in terms of the kind of sound world it inhabits from Pelea et Melisande, which has big, thick orchestral sonorities. This is small, dark, and spectral, spooky chamber music. Only 5 players doing some trading of instruments. There's a flute player doubling on piccolo, a clarinet doubling on bass clarinet, violin doubling on viola, and cello and piano. And that's it. That's an ensemble that's come to be known as the Pierrot Ensemble, as other composers have taken their inspiration to use that same instrumental grouping. This is a 1971 release on Nonesuch, and it's got that kind of art trip that they were doing at the time, where they take the front cover art, which always has the liner notes partially on the front, and then you get the photographic negative of it on the back. I think I already used the word spectral and spooky. It is a vocal piece featuring poems by Albert Giraud from his collection Pierrot Lunaire, which are all very eerie, and this is stuff that definitely is nocturnal. It's music of the night, and it comes with a little leaflet with lyrics and translations. Next, a pair of albums from the German ensemble Zeitkratzer, interpreting the music of Kraftwerk. This is Zeitkratzer performs songs from the albums Kraftwerk and Kraftwerk 2, and its sequel, Zeitkratzer performs songs from the albums Kraftwerk 2 and Kraftwerk. So there's a very subtle difference in the title, fairly subtle difference in the cover art. Between the two of them, they cover all of the tracks from the first two Kraftwerk albums. I do not have the originals of those early Kraftwerk albums. What I have is this British double LP reissue, which covers both of them. So I don't have the original traffic cone covers, which this sort of alludes to. And Zeitkratzer is like a cross between a chamber ensemble and a rock group. They do have drums and guitar, but otherwise it's woodwinds, brass, and strings. It's on the first album, which is from 2017, a 10-piece ensemble with flute, French horn, trombone, the leader Reinhold Friedel on harmonium and piano, guitar, drums, 2 violins, cello, and bass. On the second album, from 2 years later in 2019, they've added a second woodwind player. So the first plays flute and clarinet, the second plays flute and saxophone, and they've got trombone and French horn. Now, the Kraftwerk that they're interpreting here is not the bouncy rhythmic Kraftwerk of Autobahn and Going Forward when they added dance beats to their music. This is the very abstract early Kraftwerk that you'd think would be a very daunting prospect to transcribe, let alone interpret with acoustic instruments. But Zeitkratzer also did a realization of Lou Reed's Metal Machine music. So if they could manage that, they can pretty much manage anything, and that's what they do here. This next album is a reissue of the 1977 Los Angeles Free Music Society release Blorp Esset. Cover art by Don Van Vliet, the legendary Captain Beefheart. We also get to see his work on the album label. When they say free, a couple of 8.5 by 11 inserts. When they say free music, they mean it. This is largely very random and lo-fi stuff. Some of it seems to be just kind of found ambient noise, and some of it is kind of untutored improvisation on various instruments. A particular highlight, though, is a track by The Residents, Whoopie Snorp, identified here as Whoopie Snort. So this is on the État Uni label, which I spoke about recently in conjunction with the Fluence LP. And like that one, this is numbered, number 0228. So I got my number. Do you got yours? Someone dumped some Be-Bop Deluxe and Bill Nelson related material at Vinyl Solution recently, and I picked up a couple of those albums, including this one from 1977, Be-Bop Deluxe Live in the Air Age. This is a 2-disc set in a very unusual format. One disc is an LP and the other disc is a 12-inch EP, or so it's billed, but it's in automatic sequence, so the EP constitutes sides 2 and 3 of this album, and the full-length album is sides 1 and 4. That just seems like a really weird way to position the songs, but we get a lot of Be-Bop Deluxe classics on here, besides obviously Life in the Air Age, Ships in the Night, Fair Exchange, Sister Seagull, Adventures in a Yorkshire Landscape, and Blazing Apostles, which sadly fades out at the end, so we don't get to hear if they used a tape of the reception desk loop that ends the album version. And it has custom inner sleeves with photographs of the lads, and some lyrics, and some title, and some notes. Be-Bop Deluxe, Live in the Air Age. Good, energetic, proggy recording. And I also picked up Bill Nelson's 1986 solo album, On a Blue Wing. This is quite different from Be-Bop Deluxe. This is very synth pop, very heavy dance beats, but great guitar playing, some Eastern musical influence, and lyrically a lot of religious imagery, I think rooted in Bill Nelson's involvement with Rosicrucianism. There's Bill himself, and the custom sleeve, the lyrics, and the portrait label. Bill Nelson, On a Blue Wing.
Nailed to the cross of love. I'm nailed to the cross of love. Because of you. Because of
And finally, we'll go back to San Francisco where we started. And this is the first album by Quicksilver Messenger Service. I was fortunate enough to find a very affordable copy of the original pressing with a nice shiny foil cover and the original rainbow label. This is an album that I've never owned on vinyl before. Contains one of my very favorite Quicksilver tracks, their cover of Pride of Man by Hamilton Camp, which opens the album. It's got the lovely Pop Dino's song and the epic The Fool. So very fine example of San Francisco vintage psychedelia from Quicksilver Messenger Service, their self-titled album.
well, I don't ever wanna make you sorry for anything that you've ever said or done. Oh no, all I ever wanted to do was love you, and maybe hope you could love me too.
So that's VC Friday for this week. I'll have lots more to talk about next week. I'm backed up. I went to a record swap this past weekend and bought a ton of records that I haven't had time to listen to yet. So we shall see what comes up next week. Until then, thanks for watching. Be well. I will talk with you next week. Bye-bye for now.
Soccer blue?
Why, without your clothes, you're naked, Miss Dudley.